Now we are hoping that the Hawks make every moment count as they take on the Bulls tonight. They're up in
Oh,
the
joy.
Windy City for the final tilt of the season. And we know in the first two games, it was a back and forth where the Bulls won the first game in overtime. Hawks won by 2 in the second game. Bulls actually won by 11 in the third game. So the Hawks really need this just to split the season series because, of course, they've got the Bulls. The Bulls are in 10th place. Hawks are in 8th, but they're just one game behind the Hawks in
Hmm.
that scenario. And you're looking at the Raptors who take on the Hornets tonight. If they win, that's going to put pressure on the Hawks. So this is a must win for them. But I feel like one of the reasons, although it's been up and down, win loss for the last 10 games, when we see them at their best, typically that's when we see the bench mob at their best. So we're talking about a group that scored 38 points, 14 rebounds. I think it was 4 blocks and 4 steals in the game against the Mavericks. And obviously, the Hawks needed every last one of every bit of what they did in all 53 minutes. So for me, Jarvis, I feel like, of course, there's always going to be a need for someone to step up in the starting lineup. We certainly hope that Trae Young gets upgraded from questionable, which is where he stands right now with a non-COVID illness.
Hmm.
But stepping away from the starters, how important is it for this bench mob, especially for Onyeka Okongwu to keep doing what he's doing inside, for Bogdan Bogdanovic to get out there and hit those shots on the perimeter, because we know the Bulls can hit as well. How important is it for bench mob 2.0 to really come in and be the difference tonight?
I think Onyeka Okongwu is the guy is going to have to be the guy because when you think about the potential of Trae Young not being in there, obviously Dejounte will go to the one. More than likely, Bo is going to have to go into that two guard spot, and then DeAndre Hunter still dealing with his issues. So there might be some things with Sadiq Baby and at the three.
Yeah.
So that's going to kind of deplete your guys that's been doing it for you from that bench mob. So I think it's going to be a lot of weight is going to be on Onyeka tonight in order to be able to get the job done because we know how important this bench is when it comes to the Hawks getting wins because the starters, hey, that can be a little shaky sometimes. So, and I think that, the benches have been there pretty consistently since the trade deadline is being able to pick that team up or pick those starters up, when they are struggling. And I think that Double O is the guy that I feel like he can do that.
And I'm going to go with AJ Griffin because when you're out here
Yeah.
hitting buzzer beaters as a rookie, and that's really when you started to come into your own.
The
And
Bulls know who AJ Griffin is.
right, exactly, you know now,
Yes, they
who
know now.
AJ is.
Yes,
And so we're
absolutely.
starting to see him return to form. He's not quite there yet. I know he only had 3 points on Sunday, but there was a certain energy and there was a certain touch that I saw kind of coming back slowly, but surely in these last couple games.
Defensively, too, T. I've been seeing a little difference there as well. So, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
we're
good.
going to absolutely need AJ tonight to be the AJ we saw in those first couple of games against the Bulls. And also good to have Jalen Johnson back because you need
Yes,
someone like
absolutely.
him who can give it to you. And he's starting to hit some nice, quiet mid-range jumpers. He's starting to hit some threes as well. And he does not mind banging in the inside, which you're going to need as well. So I think that, like you said, Sadiq Bey is obviously going to be a starter because we're not getting DeAndre Hunter. He was ruled out yesterday. So he
Yeah.
continues to be day to day, but ruled out even yesterday. And Trae Young, of course, is 50-50 because every
Right.
time we've seen this non COVID illness questionable status earlier in the season, he's ended up being a game time decision, but he's always been out. So if
Right.
he is, and Dejounte Murray moves to the one, Bogey plays the two, then you're talking about that much more pressure on those guys to step up. Double O, step up your game. AJ Griffin, step it up. And Jalen Johnson, really, I want to say with Jalen, keep stepping it up because he was out for about a week, came back, and he's still looking like the Jalen Johnson he was before he went out.
Yeah, Jalen dealing with that lower body area, that can be
Yeah,
very
that
painful.
throwing,
I'm,
yeah,
I'm
that's
sure,
right.
as a basketball player, because we already
Mhm.
know where a lot of that power and explosion comes from is when those guys out there getting up and down that court. So to see him out there defensively being, inserting himself into the game, and I think that that's the type of role that I feel like Quinn has defined for him and
Yes.
clearly defined for him since Quinn has come on. And I think that I appreciate Quinn Snyder for doing it because a lot of times, these guys need direction, T. You know how it is when you coming out 1 year of college, 19, 20 years old and used to being the man. And then
Not even a full year of college.
right. You're not even a
Jalen
fool.
and
Right.
AJ cases.
Right. So these guys are literally super, super green. And then Jalen coming through the G League, having go down to the G League and everything, not staying on the active roster in his rookie year, and then all the expectations coming into this year. I think that he's really starting to solidify himself as a guy that they're going to keep around going forward because he has the opportunity to really see some things in these past 21 games. And I think that Snyder has seen that in him and he's defined, hey, this is what I want you to do and continue to do what you do.
Yeah, and that'll be important because, again, this is not just a critical game because of where the Hawks can land. Certainly do not want to be in that 10th spot by any means. We saw what happened last year when they were at the bottom of the play-in round. And
Right,
then they
exactly.
get into that first round, but only to be ceremoniously dismissed by the Miami Heat. If you could avoid it, avoid it. So that's important. But how do they actually avoid it with Trae Young? Now, I believe that they can still win because Trae didn't necessarily have his best games against the Bulls this season. So to me, there's opportunity for the Hawks to prove that they can do this without Trae. Do we want Trae in? Absolutely. Anytime you can have Trae Young running the point, you want Trae Young running the point. But if you don't have him, Jarvis, do you believe? I believe that the Hawks have every opportunity to still win that game if everybody we just called out steps up. But what do you think?
I don't expect him to because, like, I'm
No,
still,
we don't. No.
expectations, those out the window. Like,
Bad host.
we forget about, no, bad host. We don't do that. No expectation. But I do think that they can. I do believe that they can do it because when you think about what Dejounte Murray, going back into their role and, back previously before DeJounte stepped into this thing, like we know that when Trae was out of the lineup, like it was more than likely going to be an L. But I think that, and this is not an indictment on Trae,
Right.
like that ball tends to move a little bit better when he's not in that lineup. And I think that they've been able to understand how to function without him in the lineup. And that can be nothing but a good thing going forward. And even specifically in the playoffs, in the postseason, when teams are starting to really key in on him and the game slows down a little bit and they try to get the ball out of his hands. And I think that being able to know how to function when he's out of that lineup, I think is going to be nothing but a good thing. Because at the end of the day, Chicago, they go on a two game winning streak. Those guys have been coming, these past few games, and I think that making sure that Zach LaVine doesn't go off of 50, it can be a key to the game as well, T. So I think that if they are making sure they continue to move the ball on offense and being involved on defense or have their mindset or locked in on defense, I think that'll be a recipe for success for the Hawks against the Bulls.
Yeah, I think so too. And if they can do anything, and I do mean kind of anything, when you look at DeMar DeRozan or I think it's who am I thinking of? They're big. Vucevic.
Vucevic, yeah, Vucevic, yep. Mm-hmm.
So if those two have given them some challenges as well. So I think, and that goes back to what you were saying about the importance of Onyeka Okongwu, because you're really going to kind of need that 1-2 punch from Clint Capella and Double O in order to control the paint, because that was one of the areas, we talk a lot about the perimeter, but the Bulls had a decent, they kind of on the inside when they won the 2 games that they won, they definitely had some positive, they were in the plus on the inside. So I think that's important too. And another thing I was thinking about as well, you make a great point about what the Hawks look like without Trae. And one of the things that we have seen, even with Trae in the games of late, but one of the things we have seen is Dejounte Murray getting back to form. And when I say getting back to form, meaning he's been responsible for being out there and making plays on the defensive end, right? Even as he got his touch back on the offensive side of the ball. On defense, we're starting to see him return to
mid-range game looking real sweet right now.
Exactly.
Yes, it's looking real sweet right now.
It's so great to see the two-way DJ back, and then to see Sadiq Bey embracing the opportunity to make key plays. He doesn't have to be a lockdown defender on the perimeter. That's not what we're
Nope.
asking him to do. That's not kind of who he is. But if he can get on the perimeter, get outside like he did at the most critical juncture against Luka Doncic a couple of days
Yes.
ago, those
Yes.
are the types of things you want. You just want him to make it difficult for any of the Bulls perimeter shooters so that they don't catch rhythm. Because really and truly, that was one of the things that we didn't really get a chance to kind of deep dive into the numbers, but the Hawks were able to keep the Mavs to like 25, 27% from deep.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they had a respectable about 35%. And I say respectable from the Hawks because we know the ups and downs. But if
Yes.
you can even get in the ballpark of keeping the Bulls in the 20s or the low 30s from the perimeter, I think that's probably a recipe for a win as well.
Yeah, closing out is going to be key for the Hawks, and stand on your feet as well, because sometimes they can get a little bit too aggressive, and like, obviously you don't want to get the team and get into the bonus and go into the free throw line, because those are easy points for professional basketball players, and then we know that a lot of times the Hawks are looked at as a team that not necessarily going to get the benefit of the doubt when it comes to getting those calls. So that win margin kind of dwindles when you have a team consistently going to the free throw line, especially against the Hawks.
Yeah, this is the time for the Hawks to keep their heads and keep their wits about them, because that is going to be a dogfight in the Windy City tonight. And speaking of keeping your head, you want to know what Locked On Sports Today thinks about UConn keeping their head last night when they were up, of course, up about 17. And then
Yeah.
it's down to 5. And those guys really stayed the course and were able to get the men's title. And of course, we know LSU did the same a couple of days before that. But you know what I think Locked On Sports Today is going to be talking about? The same thing that we are going to be talking about on FTC. Are we giving everybody trophies? Like LSU should go to the White House as well as Iowa? If you want to hear their take on it, you should probably check out Locked On Sports Today. They're talking about that and really all of the big stories of the day. They're probably talking about the Braves too, because hey, Braves are they're top shelf right about now. So just like you do always, stop by ATL Day Ones first. We'll give you For the Culture. Then you can stop by Locked On Sports Today, and they'll give you take of the day. And of course, you can check them out just like you check us out on YouTube and of course, wherever you listen to your podcast.